Most of the spiritual leaders in biblical history were leaders in crisis times. The Lord called, trained, and equipped them to lead His people during times of unprecedented crisis. Moses, Joshua, Elijah, Elisha, Nehemiah, Zerubbabel, Ezra, Jeremiah, and almost all the prophets and apostles were great models of leadership in crisis times. The book of Judges is an inspired manual on lessons in leadership in crisis situations. When the people of God were facing crises of disproportionate magnitude, the Lord committed His people to the care of godly servant leaders. They were called, trained, appointed, and commissioned by the Lord to be leaders of His people. As the world is facing the challenge of a terrible pandemic, and our churches are closed down, elders and pastoral leaders should see themselves as shepherds in crisis times. It is indeed a time for soul searching and sober reflection on leadership issues and responsibilities. Are we trained and equipped to handle crisis? Do we have a clear understanding of our pastoral responsibilities? Are we taking our spiritual leadership seriously during this difficult time? Have you received wisdom and discernment from the Holy Spirit and energized by Him to deal with all the challenges? All the corporations and government agencies, business establishments, healthcare organizations and hospitals, numerous other workforces are constantly equipping and training their leaders to manage crisis and difficult situations. All the business journals are filled with articles and guidelines in relation to effective leadership in crisis time. What is our attitude to learning and knowing and sharpening our pastoral skill in ministry during this crisis time? In many of our churches, leadership always have been any man or every man business, and we have developed a very casual, informal attitude towards it. You can see incompetent, unqualified, self-appointed leaders with the support of majority vote, secular experience, family ties, seniority, or financial status have been in place of leadership. The result has been disastrous. The neglect of biblical leadership and spiritual leadership qualifications have caused tremendous damage to many of our assemblies. What do we know of authentic spiritual leadership from the Bible? Let us ask the question, what characteristics do we expect in a godly leader during crisis times? What are the strategically important biblical counsel we will give to the people of God in the midst of fear, frustration, and confusion? How do we plan and prepare for our teaching ministry? Are we studying the scriptures more diligently, carefully, systematically, doctrinally, and practically to minister effectively to God's people? How has prayer impacted us in transformational leadership during this crisis time? Let me draw your attention to one very precious verse which has impacted my understanding of spiritual leadership. 1 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 32. This is about a group of faithful men, warriors, who supported David, and of the sons of Issachar, men who understood the times with knowledge of what Israel should do. This is leadership in crisis times. Leaders who understood the times and had knowledge to tell people what they should do. Men with tremendous insight, people who knew what was really happening around them, and they were ready to serve. It seems to me that somebody raised these boys and trained them to understand the times and to take appropriate action. Understanding the times with knowledge of what we should do. May the Lord help, motivate, challenge, and equip us to be faithful leaders in crisis times. This is an urgent need of the hour, and we cannot neglect it. Hope and pray that the Lord will help us in the direction of managing our leadership responsibilities in crisis times for His glory and for the blessing of His church.